Back with another episode of Keeping Current. This is Dad Bell from the KC Soccer Journal. With me, I have Carrie Robinson from the KC Soccer Journal and social media stuff that she is a star of, and Daniel Sperry from the KC Star. How are you tonight? Either one of you.
I'm doing good. Um, yeah. I mean, I'm no longer in the heats, so let's just say that.
It's very good to be out of the heat. I'll say that. As
It
someone
is.
who was dying at Sporting's training today, for some reason this morning, it did not like we were looking at it. The temp was like 77, and that's absolute bullcrap because it was not. I was dying this morning, so um, I'm doing good though. Um,
No, I just
Back
want
to
to remind
school
you.
night.
I just want to remind you that when you complain about being out in the heat for 40 minutes, Carrie's
I
out in
know
the heat
Carrie's
for
out
like
there
an
for.
hour all day long,
I
wearing
Yeah,
long sleeves and gloves and
that's true.
woolen hats. And I mean,
It's
Hey,
true.
she sweats out her body weight every day.
construction season is slowly ending. We're good now. Today I got rained out. It's all good.
There you go. Um, yeah, I definitely am not outside that much. Um, but it's been fun lately. Back to school night, first days of schools, all the fun things for the kids. So first days of kindergarten.
Is his daughter tolerating the lengthy school day now?
Yes. It was very funny. Last week she was like, "Oh no, I'm too I don't want to do a full day. It's too long." And she did the full day and she was fine. And so yeah, so we've done I think 4 full days now, and she's definitely tired. She goes to bed a lot easier these days, but she she's tolerating it for sure.
Cool. So I know that Carrie should probably be our resident expert on tolerating heat right now with what she has to do with her normal job. Uh, Maybe she should have given some tips to the NWSL this last weekend.
NWSL, CBS, whoever needed to hear it.
So, in case anybody missed it, Casey Current was scheduled to play Orlando Pride at 3 in the afternoon on Saturday in the middle of August in Kansas City next to a river. And somehow NWSL and CBS could not foresee that there could be potentially a disaster coming with that type of scenario.
It's almost like they've never experienced or ever heard of Kansas City in August.
I have 100% faith that the Current warned them back when the schedule came out.
Yes.
I have complete faith that that happened. And I mean, and I say that with more than just faith, if you know what I mean. Anyway, but yet they were told, no, it'll be good. You can play. And that's why we saw some angry faces. And I told you faces on phones Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Um, I mean, from the press box, it was just amazing to see how animated uh, that Chris and Angie were on the phone. I was stealing PJ Green's binoculars to keep an eye to kind of look in closer at things on the field and during the delay. And yeah, you could tell there was frustration. There was a whole lot of like they knew this was going to happen, and they were frustrated because it felt like it probably felt like their warnings were ignored.
Yes.
And if you know anything about the current want to put on a good show for everybody. And to have a game would have been the opportunity. So 1v at the time three, but really 1v2 kind of. And in the standings, it's a big competitive rivalry. These have been the two hottest and best teams over the last 2 years. And in their place with a full stadium. And if you just push the game at 7 originally, even at any point in the week prior, push the game back to 7, you've
Yes.
got no problem. But you are in a great TV window and all this kind of stuff. But CBS, NWSL did not budge. Is what it seems like, and they paid for it by having um, a very lackluster experience for that game.
Yeah, I mean I'm used to like TV networks forcing weird game times onto sports because they have a window to fill. But it seems like they didn't really have the absolute need to fill that specific window versus a evening window. I mean, from what I understand, I wasn't really home to watch it, so
Yep,
No, I
yep.
tried to look up the previous schedule for CBS and I saw nothing that was like scheduled at 7 p.m.
It was FBI's most wanted reruns. I'm just like, we could have done without those. You could have played those later, earlier in the day, when not very many people are watching. And I understand that they want to try and piggyback that WNBA into the NWSL audience and try and get the crossover and all that stuff. But you can't do this. And this is why. And if you want any evidence as to why this was strictly a NWSL/CBS decision, go look at what happened earlier this year in May. Angel City in Houston, 24 hours before, they knew the heat was going to be bad. They knew it was going to be a problem. They pushed that game back in Houston to 7 o'clock, 48 hours before the game, within 48 hours before the kickoff of the game. They didn't have any TV window. It was NWSL Plus. They
yeah.
could do whatever they wanted. And so that's the point is that, I think, and of course we can keep going down here, but as much as the players talked about, um, you know, player safety being the forefront of the decision making on the day, it was not the forefront of the decision making in the days prior, and and in any way, shape, or form, if you are going to go about it this way. So you do it at a time where you don't put players in a position where they're constantly having to warm up and cool down and warm up and cool down. You played a gambling game with the TV window and you lost spectacularly. Um, so,
You know they lost, but you look so bad in doing it.
yep.
So it's at any point this could have been stopped, right? Up until the players started warming up, in my opinion, right? It could have been stopped. I mean, we knew the weather was hot 2 minutes before the players started warming up. They could have actually just stopped it at that point and said, "We'll come back when we think it will be appropriate."
Mhm.
But you have them warm up, and then after that, everything gets thrown off. Like they're tuned to do warm ups, do this, and go. And everything after that was just not right. Um, so after a couple hours of we're going to check this wet bulb reading every 15 minutes or whatever it was. There was one that was like, okay, it's good, but the cloud cover had come over for a couple minutes or a few minutes, and it actually felt a little bit nicer. And then, okay, we just need one more to be good. Of course, the sun came back out, and it was not. But after a couple hours, they said, okay, now we'll just reschedule it for 6:30. And then some people went home, some people left, some people stayed. What did you do, Carrie?
They started saying that you could unscan your ticket and then re-enter. So I went back to my apartment, which is only 5 minutes away on the drive. Didn't have to deal with the traffic. Went there for like 40 minutes, cooled down, brought a thing of ice like in my water bottle. If I had to dump it out, then I had to dump it out. But no one checked. So I had ice when I entered back in.
So you were able to survive up there?
I was. There was definitely a lot of paramedics rushing by me and my dad as we were just like chilling out on the concourse. So fortunately that I survived. I know others I think there was one hospitalization, and then they couldn't confirm how many people had actually been checked out by a paramedic, but
Yeah, it was
it
not
was
good.
Yep.
it was not
Yeah.
great out on the concourse. And how that stadium is built is, I mean, at least compared to sporting, there are spots in sporting that have cooling fans, mist fans. You have it indoors for um your supporters club. This stadium just does not have any of that at the
No.
moment. Hopefully, after this weekend, they've started to start thinking about installing misting fans at least. But
Yeah, I will say that if you're ever in that situation again, there's at least for this last game, when you come from the supporters stand up into the walkway going out to the concourse, that funneled wind through it, and it was like 30 degrees cooler right there. It was actually very pleasant to stand in that little area. And as people would walk out to leave or come back in, they'd be like, "Wow, this is nice." So we gathered a little crowd in there. We had a little friendship group going there. Uh, but in the long run, NWSL looks bad. CBS looks bad because they had to be part of the decision making process to force this. And the current, and again, you can always say like, oh, both teams had to play, they both teams had to do this, which you're absolutely correct. But in the end, because of this bad planning, this bad decision making, the current lost a competitive advantage of having the stadium full. Half the
Yeah.
stadium left, and well, I don't know how many left and how many came back, but it was pretty clearly everybody on the west side, the whole stand on the west side was pretty well full, but the east side was pretty much empty. So you lost all of those fans.
it was looking like an Orlando home game.
It's felt like it
Yeah,
for them, I guess. Yeah, just I don't know. The fans suffer, the club suffers, in a way, and the NWSL has got to like look at this and say, "Dang,
yeah.
not good."
Again, there will be games in the future that's scheduled for 7 p.m. that will be too hot to start. It will happen. Games are hot, days are hot. August sucks sometimes, but the difference will be you might have to delay a 7 to 7:30, not a 3.5 hour delay. You know,
Or, or you do a 12 o'clock kickoff. Like noon is not the hottest part of the day.
yeah,
Like literally, it is like you can check every single like day in the history of August in Kansas City and say, wow, gee, the hottest part of the day is from 3 to 6 p.m. The NBA game is indoors. Move them to 3 o'clock and put the soccer game at noon. This
yeah.
game, yeah, I'm dead serious. If that game got played at noon, it would have been much better. I was out earlier in the day. Fine, felt good. I mean,
It was warm.
it was marginally over that threshold of 92.3 on the wet globe bulb temperature for a while, and there was a couple of readings that did go pretty high in there past that 92.3, but I there was no way that before then it was at that temperature. So it's just there's so many things that could have been done here by the NWSL to have any bit of foresight towards its marquee matchup, not just of the weekend, but really in the second half of the season. I mean, everyone is circling the Kansas City and Orlando game, and the game was on CBS Sports and NWSL Plus.
Yeah.
We
It again, just a fiasco all the way around. And well, I will occasionally criticize the current for certain things they do or make assumptions on or whatever. But in this case, not their fault, not in any way, shape, or form. And they had every right to be absolutely ticked off about the fact that they lost a competitive advantage. They lost a good marquee matchup. And, hopefully that those 2 points don't come back to bite them. We'll talk more about that later. But it was just bad planning, bad decision making. And again, I don't want to say like more than I probably should say. So I'll just shut up. Any final thoughts? Any last words about that part of it? We'll come back in a second and talk about the game, but any last thoughts about the Heat?
just one thing. There was, of course, a good, well, the men never do this kind of a person that was out there that I think a lot of KC Current fans were trying to flame on this. I will point out, Major League Soccer does not have a wet globe bulb temperature threshold. If that has been put out there as fact, that is incorrect. There is no threshold. They could play their games and as hot as it could potentially be during that time frame. However, they do not they are in control of their own schedule because they
Right.
also control their venues. And so they can schedule games whenever they want. and it's on Fox Sports One or somebody like that to then pick up that TV time and say, yes, we'll do that. Fox does
Yeah.
not have a whole lot of like
Influence.
influence on the schedule in that way. And I think the NWSL does because of where they're at in their TV contract. Now,
Right.
there are bad things to Major League Soccer's TV contract with how many games are behind a paywall. NWSL has significantly more games available to the common cable or basic cable subscription streaming service package that a lot of fans have. But they are also at the behest of those large networks for those TV times. And that back in the day, Fox Sports, I mean, Fox Soccer Channel, Fox Sports One used to have some disgusting kickoff times in the middle of the summer for these teams. Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong either way, but like Major League Soccer is at a point where they don't really have to
Hater.
they don't schedule games to
Right.
do this because they are in a different spot with their TV contract. And that is that is just something that the NWSL has got to figure out and weigh ahead of time because this is one of the only starts for the Kansas City Current before 6:30 since May. It's the only one.
Yeah.
Like it should just be commonplace that if you're going to do a game in the Midwest like this, you're either doing it with a noon kickoff or you're doing it with a 6:30, 7 o'clock kickoff on whatever. And that has got to be the mandate from the league, so you don't run into these things anymore. And hopefully it is a lesson learned for them because um, they 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 fell significantly short of the mark that they have tried to put out for themselves in everything that happened on Saturday.
It sometimes makes you wonder if they really have the player's interest at heart or if it is lip service. And I mean, I'm not going to say it is. Maybe it
Oh,
was just, maybe it was just misconceptions or misunderstandings or short-sightedness, but literally it just
it
felt like they didn't care and they were going to try to squeeze it in. Even if it was at the acceptable wet bulb temperature at the start, it doesn't mean it would be that way partway through the game. I don't know how often they check it after the game starts.
they would have had to have checked it twice at halftime. Once at
Yeah.
halftime and once at the beginning of halftime and one at the end of halftime.
Okay.
But
Uh,
still,
yeah, and back to your point about MLS not in that position. Yes, pretty much every game starts at 7:30 in the time zone that it takes that it's in. If Fox or somebody else does buy one of their games or gets one of their games, they might get a later start because of they get a 20-minute dang pregame show or something in there. But otherwise, it is pretty consistently 7:30 in the market that they're in is starts for the most part. The NWSL is just not at that point right now, but they're catching up to MLS on a lot of the standards and deals. They're just not quite there on some of this stuff. Also, didn't a baseball player from the Royals go out that day for heat related illness?
yes, the Pasquatch, Vinny Pasquantino.
Yeah. So if a guy standing around on the field goes out, what do you think we should be doing about people running around?
Yeah.
All right. We'll be right back with actually talk about the game. All right. So heat stuff, we talked about that. Now, the game, 0-0 draw. Were the current as sharp as they could have been, should have been? Was it a true match of one versus two? Was it the heat that came into it that it ended up a 0-0 draw? What do you think, Carrie?
think it was definitely the heat and factor playing a factor. I mean, the game just wasn't, as quick as it usually is. Not as just not fast paced from either team. Nothing really stood out besides I think some of our defense kind of struggled a little bit more, forcing Temor to kind of come back and win some of those 1v1 challenges on the sides. But outside of that, like it was a very boring game.
It was a little less exciting than some of the previous games. What about you, Mr. Sperry?
Oh boy. Um, ah, what was my takeaway from the game? Is that
Yes.
sorry? Yes. I, I don't know what I could take away. That's the hard part. Like the game was played at such a pace that it was really it just it had so little luster to it, in any way, shape, or form. I mean, there were times where I was sitting in the press box with Tom Persley and PJ and Jimmy, and I mean, we're just sitting there begging Haley Mace to like play the ball forward and stop just standing on it. But at the same time, like the game was just ground to an absolute halt. It reminded me a little bit of that 0-0 draw between the two last year, in a way, in that second matchup, right? But at the same time, like I just looked at the way, the pace that the game played. I mean, we're talking about a game where there was a Kansas City Current game where there was less than one combined expected goal. Less than one. I mean,
No, that's pretty rare.
that's the Current have only been held under one XG once this year, and it's the only time that they've been shut out this year outside of this game.
And there was
So
only
like,
one shot on goal.
yeah, I mean it was BS at the end there. I mean, it just was a Ooh, it was a brutal, brutal matchup, in that sense, and there's just not a whole lot that I could take away from. I mean, like there were some individual plays that I thought were like Claire Hutton had one of her best games all season in the midfield.
Yep.
She was really active, read the game, destroyed a lot of stuff in the midfield, and helped spring the attack. And then on the other side, Emily Sams was phenomenal. She was a one woman wrecking crew out there blowing up any sort of counterattacks or advantages that the Current had. And she played a fantastic game. But like outside of that, like there's not a whole lot to take away from it. I don't know that you can take away that the Pride are any closer to the Current, in reality, than they were maybe a while ago and maybe at some point. But like at the same time, I don't know that you can take away from it that the Current are necessarily in amazing form. Sure, they've got three clean sheets. They're doing well defensively, but the attack has not been what we have expected or seen of the attack at many times this season. And I uh like that was just a tough, grueling game where I think you're happy that you got out of it injury free, got out of it safe, and you can say we hopefully don't have to see them until the playoffs, and maybe hopefully someone will take care of them before they get to us.
Low
Well,
went off at the end. Is she okay? Was she at practice?
she was.
Okay.
I did. I'd heard that she had twisted her ankle, rolled her ankle, and all that. But I did see her out there, at least in some of the drills.
And
We only
and
get to see so much. So.
yeah, well, from in hiding in the sun, from the sun, I was in the corner of the northern sec no, southern section, which usually I'm like midfield. So I did not have the best angle on anything this game.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Um, I end up staying in the same spot shooting because I will sometimes switch ends. But by the time the game started, I was actually in shade. At If it would have started earlier, I would have been in direct sun, and yeah, it was going to suck. But that's the problem with shooting the game is sometimes you see way more stuff than other people, and sometimes you see way less than other people. So I didn't really remember her rolling her ankle. I did remember her stepping on the other player though on that one play. I was actually
On
surprised she
Alley
didn't
Walk.
get it. Yeah, I was surprised she didn't get a card. I didn't. I don't think it was on purpose. I don't think it was a red, but I mean, just I was kind of surprised she didn't get a yellow. But they didn't throw any yellows that day. So it
Didn't
was too
throw
much
any
energy to
else
pull a card out of the pocket. I think.
or blow the whistle
Yeah.
or point in the right direction. But anyways, not a great game from giant slender man Brad Jensen out there.
No. So I asked Vlaco at training today and said, since the break, I don't think the team's played at their best. Do you think that, you're what you're doing to round into form. I forget exactly how I asked it. He seemed to take a little offense at that. Like, no, this game we played really well. We were playing the defending champions and this and that. And I'm like, and we held them scoreless. I'm like, yes, you did. But I still don't feel like this was their best. And you kind of said that just a minute ago, but I still don't feel that they're at their best. They're not quite firing on all cylinders. But let's see the next game. I mean, we'll have to see when they play with a little bit cooler game.
Mm-mm.
May not be this week. Um, so you said Claire stood out to you. I think. How did Haley Mace do filling in at center back? I'll throw that out to
Like,
anybody.
yeah, like Sperry said, I would have liked her to start trying to push the ball up quicker, trying to get an attack going. But when you're a makeshift center back, it's also one of those things of you don't want to make that mistake when your team is so limited right now at that position.
I do think I would have. There were several times I thought that I was like, play that long switching cross kind of thing that you do when you're a right back. You're just 20 feet farther into the middle. You could have done it, but I think part of it was that they knew that they wanted to conserve energy and they were only firing that long cross up there when they were in the right perfect spot. I guess I don't know if that was the right way to say it, but I think they were just limiting how much they sent him while running.
Okay, so I have one thought, and this is based on a technical conversation that we had with somebody earlier today. That was not on that does not a female professional soccer player, but it was about center back actions to help jumpstart and create the attack. And what is Haley Mace really good at doing? Outside, take away the pass. I know she's got a
Yeah.
great ball. She can pass the ball. But what else is Haley Mace really good at doing and that she does at the right back spot?
Bodying people.
Okay, outside of that, I'm talking with the ball,
I mean,
in the attack-minded thing from a defensive position.
I mean, she's good at touching the ball past somebody and making the run up and then making the connecting pass to the winger.
There we go. Progressive carries.
Yes.
So this was something we were
He went for
talking.
the official term. I just went for the rambling
Yes,
term.
we have two progressive carries. We have progressive carry Robinson in the other seat, and then we have one progressive carry all game from Haley Mace. Like she is a dribble drive kind of player when she plays as a fullback. And
Yes.
when they come out of the back three, she makes that action and goes forward and does that to drag people in and out and either dish the pass or go. So when you have center backs that are not necessarily going to be ball playing center backs in that way, one of the ways for them to jumpstart the action and to kick off the attack in helping break that initial or secondary line is to grow on a progressive carry. She did one and it was good. She got upfield, she drew a foul, and then they were able to reset a little bit further up the field. But there was a really hard time for them where it was hard for them at times to, with the back line, break that line. And I thought that was something that maybe we have overlooked in the ability of Elizabeth Ball for this team with the ball and her ability to recognize how to jumpstart the attack and the positioning and the pass movement because Mace was slow with it. She could have helped do more on the passing side of things by jump starting it vertically through. Now, Kayla Sharples was the one who was doing a lot of that work herself. She had 8 progressive passes, 4 progressive carries. But in a offense like the Currents that is pretty balanced left to right and how they choose to build out and go forward, there's not enough progressive passes there from Mace. You would expect to see more progressive passes if one of the center backs is going to be the more uh, carry type person, but that's Haley Mace's skill set. So I would have liked to see a little bit more out of that. I don't really have any complaints about Haley Mace off the ball, like
Yeah.
defensively. She did a
Defensively,
great
she's
job.
yeah.
She was phenomenal. She was what you wanted out of a center back, and a right back that was moving to center back. Like you would feel good about everything she did. She blocked shots. She was in the positioning. She cut out passing lanes. She did a good job with that. And the passes that she did play, she completed them. I mean, I'll say she is 81 of 87 passing, in that game. Now, they really let the center backs pass the ball back and forth to each other, which is why you're only looking at three progressive passes coming out of um, Haley Mason there. So that's just one tiny minor nitpick of the game. And part of my complaint about her standing on the ball was not that she wasn't was more or less that she wasn't doing something with it. If you're not gonna play the pass, dribble and drive. Like you have the ability to do that. And that would be like my one minute knock on an otherwise good performance from Haley Mace. And I did a good podcast job of getting all riled up there for it. But at the same time, in
Yes.
reality, we're talking about the difference between a 10 out of a 10 performance from Haley Mace and the current maybe winning the game, and like an 8.5 out of 10. Like that, she was very good for what you would have wanted out of that. But that's just like one little detail that I think could have really helped the current.
So I can't mind read Haley Mace or even the coaches, but I will say in defense, there's a lot of factors that may have played into that, right? One was the heat. One was the fact that Orlando is a good team, so she may have been being a little more careful with some of that. One of that may be that she's still not 100% comfortable playing center back, so when she's there, she's a little bit different player than when she is a an outside back. A lot of that may have came into it, and then just the fact that you don't have as active forwards to make some of those, because part of their strength is always not one player making a run, it's that other players are making runs, and then you're having more space because if Timwa takes off, she will drag at least one defender, sometimes two and three, right? If Bia is
Mhm.
going down the middle, she's drawing at least one. If they're not making those runs when you have the opportunity to start dribbling up into the midfield, that they're seeing that vision a little bit differently than we are. So I will give her a pass on this game for sure. And I think the only reason we even talk about any of this is that the first two games out of the break were not the best games, even though they won them. And if this was like the one game out of, they'd won six straight and they'd looked good in all of them, however many they're up to now or were up to, 8 games wins. If this was the game that there was a draw and okay, yeah, they just had a little bit of an off game. It was the heat, it was this,
Mhm.
and then we see what they do the next game. The only reason we even really question this is because Haley Mace is filling in at center back, and they've had a couple games where they were not at their best.
Yeah, for sure.
Because yeah, there's just not as much. There was just not as much movement from the forwards and some of the midfielders because I think of the heat.
Hmm.
Let alone them sitting in a locker room for five
Yes.
hours.
Right.
I kind of found it interesting, like because I asked Rocky and Bailey Feist today, uh, what they did during the halftime or during the long break, and oh, we're doing this, we're eating food and stuff, and I'm like, I know you got to keep your energy up, but I would have struggled like trying to eat food and then going back out to play that game. So I think all of that played
Yeah.
into it. Long break. All right.
I mean, I think Glow on her Instagram, she said that she openly talked about how she struggled during it.
Yeah, I don't. It's not good for any. Again, it wasn't good for the game. It wasn't good for the fans. It wasn't good for all of this aspect, and that was just another reason that you should be very unhappy with NWSL and CBS for having made those decisions.
Hmm.
Anything else? Last call for anything else that stood out from the game?
I did like Nichelle Prince. I'll say that. I felt
Yeah.
like she brought a little bit of fire to a a match that had less, very small
Yes.
smoke to start the fire.
It
Uh
had the heat, but not the smoke.
exactly. I think she
There's
brought a
no
little bit.
the
I
spark.
liked yes. Well, it didn't exactly ignite anything though.
Well, I mean, they made a pretty good flurry there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Actually, I do remember like during the game, I was like, I'm not the biggest Nichelle Prince fan at times because I'm also making that comparison to Michelle Cooper at her best, which I don't think she's had a good couple of games either. But that's not a terrible player. Just I don't think she's been at her prime that she was earlier in the season. But Nichelle was looking really good in that aspect. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I kind of forgot about that. We'll be back in a moment. Another game this weekend up in Portland. I'm having to remember which
Hmm.
Pacific Northwest city. Um, we know somebody that will be there, right, Carrie?
Yes, we do.
Who's
I'm not.
Carrie? Just kidding.
All the carriers will be up in the Pacific Northwest at some city. I will be in both, going to Portland on Saturday and then taking the Amtrak train up to Seattle because Sporting KC is playing in Seattle the next day. Um, Not excited for the heat. I think like real temperature is supposed to be, or like what feels like is supposed to be like 100 degrees. Games
In
at,
Portland?
yeah, on turf,
Yeah.
which Casey, no, not Casey Stoney, Laura Harvey talked, it was either this week or last week, saying that when they were practicing, because they also have turf up in Seattle, that like their cleats are actually like melting and burning the players.
Yep.
So excited for that. But it'll be a 7 p.m. game. Should be a
It
lot
should
better.
should be much better by kickoff. And the game in Seattle should be really nice too that night. You have a 6 p.m. kickoff.
I should have a good breeze in Seattle in the
Yeah,
nosebleeds because that's where
yeah,
they stick us.
yeah.
Yeah. Kind of jealous of the trip though. Have fun.
Thank you.
I have
Uh,
wanted to do Portland for a long time. Has never got to do it yet. But
I've been to Portland, walked around the stadium because that's when it was getting remodeled with my sister a few years ago. And it's really nice. Unfortunately, this is just like strictly a soccer business trip. So we don't get to do too much sightseeing, but gonna try to make the best of what we can. Great city, both of them.
yes,
so the Thorns are in fifth place, 7-5-4 record. Um, always a good team, some really strong midfield, some other good players. What do you guys expect from the actual game?
I think this is going to be a different game than, or a different Portland team than we saw in the first game of the season. Um, yeah, the results have not always gone their way, but like they had quite the comeback against Seattle Reign um just last weekend. That ended 4-2 and yeah.
Any team with Sam Coffey on it's going to be tough. Olivia Moultrie, they have some good players. What do you expect from their playing style, Mr. Sperry?
I expect them to kind of be the team that, you know, uh, this is a team that lately has been figuring out how to live life. Like when they first saw them, they were figuring out how to live life without Sophia Wilson. And I think they've found a way to do that. It's of course not as prolific as you might think, but they are still a pretty solid team for the middle of the field. They're going to let their strength of the midfield shine with players like Moultrie, Castellanos, Jesse Fleming, Sam Coffey, Hina Sakita. I mean, there's a lot of really solid midfielders that they've got in the mix right now, and they've found a way to be dangerous and get going. So Rylan Turner has also been really good for them up top, getting in some goals. It's been interesting because they've had some young players like Petra Torden, along with like their top three goal scorers, literally 19, 21, and 22 years old, between Turner, Torden, and Moultrie.
Yep.
And in the middle, they've gotten contribution from up and down the roster. They've got players that are um, really good ball movers and distributors, help create a whole lot. as well. So, like obviously Olivia Moultrie, but then you've got Sugita and Sam Coffey there as part of a midfield that just makes things happen and is also defensively pretty solid, which is why you end up in the spot that you're at, right? You've got a good goalkeeper in Bella Bixby. You've got a good group elsewhere through the spine of the team. But I do think their back line is a little, how do I put it? Um, they are that is probably their weakest spot in a way. I think they've done a really good job of trying to cover that up with how they play. But I do think like that's where the Current have the advantage is the fact that their back line isn't as great as we have of individuals necessarily. And the Current have outstanding individuals on their front line that are really good at pulling apart the other team's structures. So.
Yeah, that would seem to be their weakness at this point, and it seems like Portland's a team that's kind of building towards being really good next year. They're good now,
Yeah.
but when you have three young players that are leading scorers, like you said, and the potential of getting Sophia back next year, I'm not sure what the status on the timing on that would be, but uh, plus whatever other moves they might make. But
Yeah.
it seems like a team that's just going to be. Of course, I can say that probably about a lot of the teams that are in the top half right now.
Yeah.
Predictions? Want to go for that? We always screw them up badly, so we might as well just have some fun with it.
I will go 1-1. Off to see the Wizards does not have a good track record on our away trips.
Yeah, but mostly that's with sporting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only been sporting, but just in case.
So, so if you jinx the Current, they are not going to let you have tickets to their
I'm
away games.
I'm sorry in advance to current listeners, current fans, the current.
How about you, Sperry? What do you think the result will be?
I'll say 2-1 Current.
That's what I was going to say, and I was going to make a prediction. Claire Hutton and Allie Sentner get goals.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm just having fun with it because you can't predict who's going to get goals. The only time you can kind of do that is say Timoa. And I don't want to just like take the easy way out, but it wouldn't surprise me if she gets a goal too.
I hope so.
So talking with Vlaco today, Elizabeth Ball is back in training. Supposed to be back in training this week. I did not see her during part of it when I was out there. So I don't know if that means she was supposed to be today or tomorrow, but she could theoretically be available for this weekend. I seriously doubt it if she's not fully back into training at the beginning of this week, but it sounds like she should be able to be back at least next week, if nothing else. And then Gabrielle Robinson, I know we've said this for a long time. She's been medically cleared to play since like May, it seems like, maybe even April. I don't know. Whenever it was, it's been a long time that she's been medically cleared, but they're going through the whole uh, return to play uh, process, and it has taken a while for her because I think they're trying to make absolutely sure that she recovers all the strength that she needs to be safe while she plays. Where with Pfeiffer, I mean, I don't know that she had any muscles to begin with. So I don't know if they had to like really work on that. Kidding. She's an amazing player. Um, but I just think that's why the delay has been is they're just trying to make absolutely sure. Because again, you can put a Pfeiffer in for 15 minutes in a game and like get her time and get her back into to game shape. But you just don't do that with center backs that often. But maybe you get 45 minutes or 30 at the end of a game where you're leading, something like that. But you don't just throw center backs in without them already being pretty close to game shape. So that's probably why we've not seen her. She's been in training for a while. We see her out there when we get a chance to watch training, and she's looked good in the little bits that we get to see.
Maybe she has to beat Temwa in training before she can come back.
Don't say that. She may never get back. Anybody else that we probably should discuss? Anything around the league? Orlando, we missed Orlando just signing a player, right? Record transfer
Yeah.
Yeah,
fee.
Jacqueline Ovalle, sorry.
Um, I know.
1.5 over 3 years.
Thank you. I was waiting for that before I jumped into
1.5
um
million, sorry. Yeah. 1.5 million, 500K each year to Tigres, so they don't have to do the dumb, they don't have to pile it all into 1 year against their transfer fund thing, their net transfer spend.
How much difference do you think they'll make for Orlando, which is already a really good team?
I don't know. She's more of a creator type. Um, I don't find like Banda and Shalufia, like those are two players that are really strong. And Ali, I mean, maybe in the long run, it probably could be seen as a long-term replacement for Ali Watt, who will eventually move on to Colorado.
Yep.
I think that's another thing. Like looking at that, like she's a good player to kind of pair up there with Banda. Someone that can a little bit crafty, creative. She's going to want the ball at her feet a lot. And Marta also wants the ball at her feet a lot, so it'll be very interesting to see how it all works out in the long run. But it's a pretty she's a pretty high quality player. I expect her to. I don't necessarily think she will put up the numbers that she did in Mexico in the
No.
NWSL. Um, but I think she is a solid player and will give a pretty good extra dimension to this Orlando Pride team. We'll see how long she has to integrate, though.
When
And
you
how
make
long
a
Banda's out.
what's that?
And how long Banda might be out after
Right.
going down with that injury. I mean, we haven't seen anything yet. That could be.
Which is one of the things I wanted to mention when we were talking about the game, and it slipped by before mentioning it. But yeah, Timwa tracking back and not taking her out, but defending her, and then her going down hard. I don't really know what that injury was, but she didn't look good walking off the field. So it was, I don't know how long she'll be out, like you said.
Mhm.
But back to that new player they acquired, you don't spend record transfer fees on players and not expect them to be productive. You know what I mean? So it's not like
Yeah.
a oh she'll they're if they do that and she just comes in as okay, then that's a bust. If you spend a low transfer fee and they come in and they're okay, yeah, it's okay. So you took a chance, right? Any other news around the world of women's soccer that we care about?
Mike Smith, former global director in scouting recruitment for Thorns, has accepted the same role in Denver, which could be a good thing or a bad thing for Portland. The bad thing is that he could take Sophia Wilson down to her native Colorado.
Yep.
The good news for Portland is that he's had a terrible resume over the last 3 seasons for international um, talent.
Good luck to Colorado. Don't really care.
Hopefully, hopefully there's not a, a scouting bump. Uh, Also, we had a goalkeeper goal this weekend.
We
Did
did
you know
well.
that, Ben?
Does yesterday count as the weekend?
Yes, the weekend, as in whatever week it was for NWSL. Alyssa
Alyssa
Nair
Nair
in her 200th appearance in the league.
got a goal in 90, 11, 90, actually 101st minute at that point.
That was
Um,
90. That was 90 plus 9.
okay, 99th minute. Still very late. Corner kick. She nearly killed Shea Groom to get that one in, but have you seen the if you go watch the replay of it, like no like Alyssa Nair's like sitting there celebrating and like runs to her teammates to like celebrate the goal and Shea Groom is like getting up off the goal line just
Schlegel.
like oh it was Ali Schlegel, sorry. My apologies. Still, okay, it doesn't matter who it was. It was absolutely hilarious because they
It
somehow
was.
got absolutely rocked in that whole sequence and was just laying on in the goal as like Nair gets the ball to go over her and in, and she's just sitting there. Oh, she looks worse for the wear. So go back and watch the highlight of it. It's pretty funny.
But she was back up and jumping around Nair during her interview. So
Yeah, she's fine. She just looked like she got rocked momentarily. It's pretty epic.
she
It
looked
was
like
a
she was
crazy
dying.
scramble there, wasn't it?
Oh, it was.
I mean, I've only seen it on my phone, so I did not have not looked at the largest video of it possible because I want to pull that up later and watch. I just haven't had a chance when I was at my computer. But yeah, it looked like a fun one.
That is
Yeah.
2 weeks in a row that Seattle has gotten rocked
Hmm.
from comeback games.
Yep.
I feel so sad for him. I can never like a Seattle team. Sorry. Also, this last game was Vlaco's 200th coaching in the NWSL, second most of any NWSL coach.
Wow.
You know who the first one was?
Laura Harvey.
Laura Hardy.
Yep.
Who else?
How many NWSL championships does she have? Zero? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Carrie's just smiling over there. She's not saying anything.
I mean, Vlaco did spend 4 years coaching a national team, so
Z-
Yeah.
Zero championships, one cooler for Laura Hardy.
is it the same cooler the whole career?
I think the coolers
No.
just happened in recent years.
Okay. She got
Uh,
tired of Casey Stoney looking like super cool doing it on the sideline in San Diego, sitting on the water cooler and all that, and said, "You know what? I'm going to do it too."
if it was the same cooler all these years, it would have a hell of a dent in it by now. Uh, yeah, but no, Casey looked pretty good on it was like a classic pose there.
Yeah. I
She,
think
she
it's the
did,
fact that it was the Gatorade cooler, the orange Gatorade cooler, and like this like classy like blazer and skinny jeans, just sitting there
yep.
chopping it up, yelling at Alex Morgan to run in the latter years of her career.
Do you think Yeti
Ah,
would spend some big money to get Vlaco to do that?
no, I mean they have so Yeti does have this is me nerding out because my brother-in-law has one, but they have a like jug cooler. So it's meant to be like a barrel kind of cooler that you would like
Yeah.
sit on in a canoe or a kayak fishing or stuff. So they have something like that. So maybe if Laco grabbed one, he could.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be that type of cooler. It could just be a normal cooler. I mean, they could have like a
Yeah, but
secret.
they're like short. Like I don't want like Vlaco then like you know how tall Vlaco is. Can you imagine
Yeah.
Vlaco sitting up there with his knees like to his shoulders, like on the ground trying to watch this game? Like it would never work. He'd be like his knees would give out. Like he would be like the current would be annoyed. Like whatever they're getting from Yeti for him to do that will just need to go into whatever like healthcare fund for Vlaco's knees,
Knee
an eventual
reconstruction fund.
knee
Knee
replacement fund.
replacement.
We could go like truly, trailer park chic Missouri type of thing and like prop it up on concrete blocks first.
The Ozark
What?
way.
Yeah.
Why are there cinder blocks on the sideline?
I somehow think that would be frowned upon, but
Ugh.
I think the cool thing is he could like have it there, and then when the ref goes over to look at VAR, he could open it up and look himself, like have a VAR
Have
feed in
his
there
own
on his own.
personal one.
Yeah.
His home personal VAR feed. Oh my word. Don't give
Uh,
Yeti ideas, man. I'll do something.
uh,
Speaking of,
The
well,
only idea you can give Yeti is a sponsorship for us, and that's about it.
by the way, if you're with Yeti and you would like a very fun podcast that covers the current and the NWSL in general, and sometimes the national team, you should contact Thad Bell at backpost.net.
Sperry, do you know why the field's perimeter looked completely different? Like it was a different field?
Because I think they did sod replacement. They did sod replacement in the sixes, um, to start the season, and I think they went to the sidelines as well, because they had probably for some of the other matches that were going on that field and other events, the sideline would have been rutted out a little bit differently based on the width of the field and benches and stuff like that. So. I believe that is why they did it. With the lacrosse thing that happened and all that stuff, they had to do a little bit of sod replacement. If I remember what you're talking about, like looking back at it, both sixes were replaced, um, and then the perimeter of the field was.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Because me not being in my usual seat and off to the corner, I was focused on the corner kick area and
Hmm.
how just the perimeter of the entire field is just completely different than
Yeah, the seam looks a little funky just because of the events that they had
yeah.
out
Okay.
there.
See, it looked like there was like a yard all the way around the field that was not replaced, which just did not make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, did they
No,
like
I'm not
order
saying.
the
I'm
wrong
saying that.
size?
No, I don't. What do you mean yard around the field?
It looked
I'll
like
show
about
you.
a yard.
I have a picture.
Yeah. Carrie took a good picture of it from her high vantage point. But it did look like about a yard around the entire field. Like the outer yard was not replaced, and everything inside of that yard was. It was different color, different
No,
seam.
I genuinely think that they didn't replace the middle of the field. They replaced the edge. Like that yard width is the
Yeah.
replacement around the edge of the
Okay.
field.
Why does it look? It looks worse than the actual field then.
Maybe
Well,
because it's
because
new.
it's new and it's got to grow in and get
Okay.
to its spot.
Ignore the caption I sent with that. It was already loaded into
No, that's okay.
the chat. It just says I spilled beer because I was telling Sperry that why I was late as well.
I see what you're talking about. Yeah. No, I think they replaced that seam because the
Okay.
sideline itself
Is the same
is
color.
well, the sideline itself is turf. Like that is
Oh yeah.
turf on the outside edge of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But then the next yard in was a different color, and then the rest of the field was a different color.
yeah, I think that's the replaced area. The central side of it is what I don't believe is replaced. I might be wrong, but that's what it looked like. That's what I expected when I looked up there. So if
Yeah.
they did replace it, I don't know where the heck they got all that turf from, because that like the central side of it, because they wouldn't have been able to like regrow it and do like it would have been a whole process. You would have seen seams from the site from the pieces of turf that they had brought in to like readjust it at that point. So I
Grass
I
pad.
would I would expect or what's the
Right there high on grass.
Yep.
grass pads high on grass, and the bears of Missouri like to visit too. If you remember the bear would that they saw at a Taco Bell in like Belton or something like that. There was it was apparently at the grass pad in Blue Valley / Stillwell,
Yeah.
right off of 69 High. So,
That was my
anyways, the
brother's favorite Kansas City commercial, though, when he came here to visit.
grass
Where,
pads high on grass.
It's a good
yep,
one.
It's a good one.
it's
This is
catchy.
so far derailed at this rate too. So if you're
I
still
know.
with us, thank you.
And if you're not, tough. Uh,
Poor
yeah, I mean,
loss.
we've given up on actual soccer. We've talked about Yetis and grass and bears and trying to describe yards of grass and all right. So if you're still with us, I appreciate it, and let us know if we should stop rambling at the end of podcast because I'm leaving this in. So,
Oh, you
but yeah,
absolutely should.
but it was such it was such a weird game this last time. Owners mad, people I
General
haven't seen for years
managers.
popping up drunk in the stands. Yeah. All right. Any last words? Anything? I am going to call it, and we are out.